I've heard a ton about what you've been building at Salad House. You did $2.5 million in gross sales out of a single store. Why did you join Salad House and what's the why behind it?
I tried it. I was like, damn, this stuff is good. And I was just like addicted to it. I was
14 years in, 20 locations, none of them have failed. What do you feel like you're doing differently to achieve those results?
We need to continue to get better. Never resting on being satisfied. Whatever we need to do to continue to get better. And we have a real solid team in that manner.
Jerry, super excited to talk to you. I've heard a ton about what you've been building at Salad House from Joey's perspective. Now I get to hear it from your perspective, but a quick intro. You were in the hedge fund world for 17 years, didn't love the travel and all of that. Saw Salad House, saw an amazing, healthy, nutritious brand, believed in Joey, partnered with him 8 years ago. You became his first franchisee last year. According to the FTD, you did $2.5 million in gross sales out of a single store. Absolutely incredible. Anyways, Jerry, I'm super excited to talk to you. Welcome on.
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it, man.
So yeah, can you give us, again, I went through the story a little bit, but in your words, why did you join Salad House and what's the why behind it?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Salad House, I came across Joey. I've been friends with Joey for for a number of years, and I actually had a paddle boarding accident and I blew out my shoulder. And when I blew out my shoulder, I knew I couldn't just eat at he has a family Italian deli, that, the head fund guys and myself would always eat at. And I was like, dude, where is the salad place? I gotta start eating a little healthier, man. Cause I can't work out anymore. And he's like, yeah, told me about the location. I said, I tried it. I was like, damn, this stuff is good. So I trusted him as somebody who's a friend of mine and, in his family. And then the food was really good. And I was just like addicted to it. I was like, man, I said, I'm going to be transitioning out of the hedge fund space. And, I was, getting a little old and tired of the travel. And I was like, if you wanted to do something more with this brand, I'd be into, trying to help you make it work. And that's how I got involved. It was, I said, hey, let me, we struck a deal where I could get part of the, ownership of the franchisor, which is, what I have today. But I also said, hey, I want to open up a store as well. Let us be the first store to make it happen. And I grabbed my brother, who was a physical therapist, who, we talked about it like everybody who's doing their job wants to do another job. He's like, oh, man, he's a foodie. He wants to jump in. And he's like, yeah, man, I'll run it. He's like, if we can get it going. And we dove in, man, not knowing anything about the franchise space, healthy food, nothing. I just figured, how hard could it be?
Yeah, I love, that's how I got into. I bought a cookie company with never being in cookies, never being in restaurants, never being in anything. And I lived out of state, but I do agree with that mindset. It's like, what is the top person doing in this space or in a different space that I'm unable to learn? And it's like, or hire for. Maybe I don't have to learn. I just have to hire for it. And I like that. And I also really like looking at concepts where owners also are franchisees, because that's very separate. And when I was a franchisor, I got that advice as well. Like, you have to suffer with your franchisees and know the operations, Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Like, how has that influenced your role as a corporate owner, also
Huge.
being a franchisee?
Absolutely huge. And I'm glad you brought it up, because I don't think a lot of people understand, that, how unique that is and how it changes your mindset. Because, I look around, our office, and, it's not just me. It's like, everybody around the table who's kind of part of the franchise, or almost everybody owns a piece of a franchise or is an operator. So when we make decisions, we're not just making them top line decisions. Let's see what drives the top line, regardless of whatever coupons come in or anything that comes out of the pocket of the franchisees. We're looking at, yeah, does it make sense on a top line? Because we do get compensated on top line revenue, but we own stores. So how does this make sense for us as a franchise owner? Because, I'm making decisions, selfishly, for myself too, for my brother. We made, a commitment to each other to run a successful business. And, I can't make those decisions at the top line if they're going to negatively impact myself and all these other franchisees on the bottom line. So it's a unique thing, man.
Very, very different, because it's like, okay, let's increase the royalty. Corporate needs more money. And you're like, no, I'm not paying more royalty. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
definitely.
But because it gives you both sides of the coin. And then I think it's easy to say that, right? But here's the evidence. 14 years in, 20 locations, none of them have failed. That's huge. But apart from none of them failing, you can look at a few other metrics. The average store is doing over $1.6 million. Crazy. The lowest store did I think it was 991,000, like $1 million,
Yeah, just under
the
$1,000,000
lowest store.
probably. Yeah.
So you guys are really implementing it to make it very hard for anybody to fail, even if they wanted to. Like lowest store doing $1 million, zero closures in history. On the operation side, like what do you feel like you're doing differently to achieve those results?
I would say well, first of all, we love the brand, so when we talk about people getting involved in things that, you should love what you do. Like I got involved in this, in eating healthier and doing and being involved in this business because I truly love it. I mean, when I had Salad House today for lunch, so we all believe in the product, and we're always trying to make it better. So I mean, I think if I look back on where we were as when I first opened that Westfield store, 8 years ago, um, we were still, Joey had 2 stores at the time, he still didn't know what he was doing. We were still trying to figure it out. Um, but we used that Westfield store to continually just get a little bit better every day. So it's just tweaking it, tweaking it, tweaking and never being satisfied and always knowing that somebody's coming after you for your lunch, and knowing that, the competition's not going to slow down.
Yeah.
We can't relax. Like you said, we just, we did last year, we did $2.5 million at that Westfield store. Um, but there's competition coming in left and right, and we need to continue to get better. So I think that's a big part of it is just constant, never resting on being satisfied and always trying to, tweak the menu, try to adjust the cogs, adjust pricing, whatever we need to do to continue to adjust to get better. And we have a real solid team in that manner.
Yeah. So 2 questions here. So one, you had no experience in food and you've been able to make it work. So what do you tell other people that are afraid of food because they've never been in it? That's my first question.
Yeah, man, I would say I have respect for the for the restaurant industry now. It's not easy, you know what I'm saying? Like you got to work your ass off, I came in, I told you, when we talked earlier, I was like, "Come on, man, I'm a finance guy. I'm smart. Like how hard could this be? I go out to dinner all the time. I don't understand why, we can't get this dinner right. So how hard could it be to run a restaurant? It's friggin' hard, man. You got to work your ass off and you got to bust really hard. Put the work in, but if you love it and you um, care about the food, care about the people, not only the people that you're serving, but also the people that work with you, game changer, man. Like some of my best friends, I've met through the community, you know?
And you talked about like making it easier operationally. Like when you came in, you guys had in Joey's words, like you looked at it very objectively and you're just like, hey, these items don't sell. Let's get rid of them. And Joey is like, okay, if we're going to franchise, I'm going to trust in the numbers. And I feel like that's a huge advantage when somebody comes in outside of the industry. They don't know what's good or what's bad or whatever. They're just coming in with their, so you came in with the numbers lens and you're just like, objectively, let's just look at it. If it makes sense, great. If it doesn't, let's get rid of it. Can you talk to me a little bit about more about that and what impact that had on the business?
Yeah, I mean, and listen, I have to give Joey a lot of credit because I think a lot of founders, I've come to realize that they fall in love with a lot of the products and, even early on, we had a calamari salad on the menu and it was really good.
Mhm.
But Joey's like, oh, that calamari salad is so good. And I'm like, only you and my dad order that calamari salad. Like my dad was a huge fan of the calamari salad. And I'm like, dude, we got to go by the numbers, like if people want to, if people are buying that stuff, we need to have more of that. And if they're not buying it, then we need to either adjust it or we need to go back and eliminate it. And that's really what we did. So really became really a metric driven system where we're saying, hey guys, we're not falling in love with anything, but people want to buy, that's what we want to offer more of that. And like I said, I give Joey a lot of credit because I think a lot of founders would have ego with that, like, hey, this is the menu I put together. And he was like, listen, I get it, man. If it doesn't make sense to our customers, I don't want to, I don't want to be selling it, So that's how we've really operated the business.
And if you don't mind, I have the FTD pulled up because you guys are very transparent in your FTD. Like you have all of the stores, you have multiple years of the stores. So I have your Westfield store pulled up. And why I'm pulling it up is like, okay, you're saying all of this, and it sounds good, but what are the actual results? So $2,575,000 is what your store did in 2024. Um, half of that, 52% of that was direct orders, and 47% was third party delivery.
Yep.
Huge that you don't
Yeah.
have to clean up for them and do the bathroom and all that. Like I'd love to get into that in a little bit, right? So there's your sales, and then we have your cost of goods is 27%. Your labor cost is 22.5%. Leaving that 50% direct gross profit. Okay. And then we take out our royalties and our brand development fee, and you're still at a 43%. Here it says a direct gross profit less franchise related expenses, meaning after all of those expenses, you're at $1.1 million with only a few more expenses left, right? Utilities, rent, and this is all on an investment. On the FDD, salad houses are 300 on the low end, 750 on the high end, but around 550, 600 on average. Is that all
Yeah,
correct?
no, I mean, we certainly it's gotten a little more expensive over the last few years, so I would say, it's probably in the fours, a few years ago, and now it's probably mid fives is what, an all-in number. I think what you're looking at is around 550.
Which is crazy. I mean, you look at your profit, and you look at what you started, and you're like, wait, I what?
Yeah, I mean,
on the,
I mean, a big part of it too is like we're not we feel we don't have to be in like that a space, like where you're paying crazy rents and again, it goes back to, maybe for a normal franchise or like, hey man, like drive those revenues because I'm getting paid on that top line revenue. I want to see you in those really, AAA buildings. But for us, we're like, we don't need it. Like I think, we have a good enough product that, we can deliver to you and you'll come and get it. If we have accessible, parking or something nearby or in a nice downtown, like you'll come and get it because it's good enough quality food that you'll come grab it. So
and especially with you did $1.2 million in delivery sales of a single location.
yeah,
How? Right? Because there's so many benefits of the delivery. And I know that there's third-party delivery charges, but you also adjust menu
yeah,
prices accordingly. So you
yep,
don't, the customer's paying that. And as customers, we know we're paying that.
yeah.
But how do you achieve $1.2 million in just delivery sales?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're accessible to the delivery drivers. I mean, we have a, nice location in Westfield, so it's, yeah, have a couple of spots that are easy to get into. But I mean, it's quality of food, man. Like it's good quality food, it's quality service. And like I said, I eat it all the time, so I know, it's something you can go back to. That's where I would really point to is when you look at Salad House. It's not something like, like a pizza or a burger where, maybe I'm getting that once a week. Like, I legit eat Salad House probably 4 times a week,
Hmm.
because I could have a salad a couple days a week. I could have, a nice wrap one day a week. I could even do dinner with a grain bowl, So when you talk about like delivery, we're seeing deliveries on a lunchtime because if you think salad, you think salad lunch. I think if anybody thinks of that. And I would probably say that, it's still a lunch dominated business. But what we're seeing is now with some good sandwiches that we have, some nice appetizers that we have, and then also grain bowls, some of the other top stores that we have are seeing like a 50-50 mix, on dinner and lunch. So now you're saying like the salad business is actually a dinner business too. Well, that's really what makes a game changer.
Yeah, you're really, really opening that up to a lot more potential of the revenue. And again, it's crazy. Like one metric that I like to look at is what's my build out cost, my all in cost, and what does that compare to the average revenue, right? And
Yeah.
here we're at about a 3x.
Yeah.
Your average build out cost versus the average revenue of 1.6 million, you pay and your revenue is 3x, and that's really great. I mean, for me, I've looked at a million freaking franchises. That's definitely top 1%. It's just hard to find those and kind of sort through those. Jerry, not being in the food industry, what was harder than what you thought, and what was easier than what you thought as far as running a food franchise?
Ah, man, like I look at myself now and saying like, look how dumb you were, like, getting involved in this and thinking that you were so smart that you knew everything. So I just think that I think a lot of people have the idea of, just build it and they will come, you know, and that's just, especially in the restaurant business, not the case. Yeah, I mean, we have a nice reputation. Yeah, we have good quality stuff, but like you gotta hustle, So I think, being in the store, especially early on, and being in that environment and seeing how things operate, taking good care of the people that are working there, and making sure that they're appreciative and thankful, for the people that are coming in and interacting with the customers in the right way. They're turning out food the way you want to have it turned out. So I think just being hands-on and active, at least early on, until you establish your team. I think that that was an important,
Yeah.
learning lesson for me. And we camped out there. I mean, I give my brother a lot of credit. I mean, probably the first year, I mean, he was there from open to close, like every single day. I mean, that's a big, and now that's not the case now. Now we have established team, and you have a
You have
good
to
group of people.
learn it first, right? And you
Yeah,
have
man.
to
Like,
put that
yeah,
sweat
it's not
equity
going to be
in.
something that you open it and it'll come. Like, you got to put you got
Yeah.
to put the work in, man. And I didn't
I
have enough appreciation for that.
and hitting on that, I think in general, like that's most people get into business because you want time freedom, less stress, more money. And then so you get a business and now you're a business owner, you own a salad house or whatever, right? And then you realize, crap, I just own my own job is all, right? And I have to work the longest hours and I get paid last. But you're buying into a system that is replicable, right? So if I figure that out and I work the long hours, what does it look like when I have 2 stores? What does it look like when I have 3 stores? And you're actually using the systems because usually when you buy one store, whether you start your own business or you buy a franchise, you're buying yourself a job. Nothing wrong with that. Just realize what it is. But once you learn it, you could definitely come back, step back, work on your business and scale. I think that's where it gets really fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jerry, last question for you. If there was somebody listening to this, they're on the fence, maybe considering a salad house franchise, what would you tell them?
I mean, listen, I'm a huge believer in it. Like, I saw it, when we were at our infancy, and I told you, I mean, early on that first year, we did like 700,000 in revenue at that store, and to see that store last year do 2.5 million in revenue, um, it's just awesome to see. And knowing that we're putting out a great product, that you can feel good about the product we put out, good, healthy, high quality food, um, good people that are working there, charitable group. So I mean, listen, if we know that it works. I mean, like I said, I didn't know shit. I came in, and now this thing's doing, $2.5 million in revenue. But it's a really solid system. It's run by really good people, and we're putting out really good products. So I'd put us up against anybody.
Love it, and I would too. Jerry, I really
Appreciate it,
appreciate
man.
your time. This was super helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate your time, man.